Southwest Florida. You're looking live at the North Law Firm Stadium. And of course, I'm Lee Pitts here at famed Dunbar High School. So thrilled to have our television show here covering this magnificent stadium named after one of my good friends, Attorney Joe North, who will be joining us later on in the show. And the first part of the show, we get a chance to talk to the mayor of the city of Fort Myers, Kevin Anderson. It's my first time getting him on here since his election, so we're so thrilled to have him out here as well. Also, we get a chance to talk to Bobby Irving. He's the author of Failure to Comply, a fabulous book, and I can't wait for you guys to learn more about that book and how to get that book. A retired Marine law enforcement officer who's living out in Cape Coral, who has penned a bestseller. All that's happening on Lee Pitts Live. We'll be right back. Southwest Florida, you're looking live at the North Law Firm Stadium here in the heart of the city of Fort Myers at Dunbar High School, the famed Dunbar High School that houses the famed North Law Firm Stadium. We're so thrilled to be here today. We're even more thrilled to welcome to our show here. It's not his first time on the show, but it's his first time as mayor of the city of Fort Myers, Kevin Anderson. Welcome to Lee Pitts Live.
Thank you, Lee.
Hey, one of the things about you is you have a strong familiarity with the school system from your days as a resource officer.
Yes, I do. You know, I was one of the first resource officers in Lee County for, 1983 to 1988.
How would you describe that function?
You know, back then it was a lot different. We didn't have the active shooter situations we have now that you have to worry about. Back then, I got to get into classrooms a lot and actually teach and interact with the students. Oh yeah, I loved it. Probably the best 5 years of my law enforcement career.
Now, when you were a resource officer, you were assigned to one particular school?
No, I started off first with Michigan Elementary, going back a long way, Dunbar and Fort Myers middle schools, and we also did private schools. So I had St. Francis and Bishop Rowe. I rotated around. Then I got assigned to Fort Myers High School, where I was solely there.
The Lemuel Teal, you got a chance to meet him, a recently passed great educator, African-American mathematician. Why don't you share some comments about him while we have you here?
Just what a great guy, you know, dedicated teacher. I mean, really poured his heart into it. And I always enjoyed bumping into Mr. Teal whenever I came by the middle school. In fact, even had gotten to know his daughter as she was a student back then as well.
Do you think that your whole broad experience in working in all types of communities at the schools and all those types of things as a resource officer and then as a law enforcement officer and as a sitting city council person, do you think that sum total of all of those things coming together helps you right now as you start your journey as a mayor of a fine city like Fort Myers?
Oh, absolutely. You know, there's another piece in there too, Lee. I spent 15 years after I left the police department with Chico's, so I got some real business experience. And interestingly, you know, Chico's is probably one of the most diverse employers in this area. So that was a good experience.
Now, as we're sitting out here right now, we got the nice breeze blowing between us, and I like people to know that we're socially distanced, and you, every time I see you, you make sure you have your mask on. You got a chance to experience standing out there with the band. The whole concept of us practicing socially distancing and all of the things sent down from the CDC, is that something that you're championing as a city mayor?
You know, I was one of the first elected officials to come down with COVID back at the end of March. So I've been a big proponent. People should wear their mask. They should socially distance. We should wash our hands continuously, use the hand sanitizer, the Purell and whatnot.
COVID, you mentioned you had it.
Yes.
Can you share how it impacted you and what you learned from that?
Yeah, you know, I was very fortunate. I had a mild case. You know, no difficulty breathing, some aches and pains, a little bit of stomach issues. The last 2 nights had a high fever. For me, it lasted almost 12 days.
Okay. Since you become mayor in this short period of time, couple of 3 months, you, summarizing it, you asked for the resignation of the sitting city manager Saeed Qasimi, which got a lot of media attention immediately. The way it goes is that you went into his office and said, I want your resignation. I want you to tell your side of the story and where we are now.
Yeah, it's funny how stories develop and they grow their own story. No, I did. I sat down with the city manager. I thought it was very gentlemanlike about it. I told him I thought it was time for a change, and I did ask him for his resignation.
And at this point, he has decided to retire.
Yes, he did.
And how do you, the way everything played out right now, you pretty happy, and in the city council pretty happy with the way things are going?
Well, I can't speak for the council. I'm happy that this didn't become a public affair. You know, I could have just gone to the city council and proposed a resolution for his removal. Then there would have been a lot of discussion over why. Each council member would have brought up reasons they thought he should go, reasons they think he should stay. And, you know, I didn't want to go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I gave him the opportunity to make a decision on his own and, you know, walk out with his head high. You know, the city manager has done a lot of good for this city over the years.
What do you say?
We shouldn't forget that.
What do you say to the, I'm sure you heard it a million times, but what do you say to people who say, Mayor Anderson had some dirt. And he knew he had the 4 votes to vote him out. That's why Saeed Qasimi just stepped down gracefully.
It was strictly a business decision. Obviously, I wouldn't have moved forward if I didn't think I had the votes. And I'm sure that, you know, Mr. Qasimi is a professional city manager. And like most people in government, you're always counting your votes.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to Dunbar, where we're sitting right now, the largest minority community in Southwest Florida. You, on your campaign, you said that you wanted to make sure that all parts of the city of Fort Myers are part of the overall growth and prosperity of our city. You still hold that position?
Oh, absolutely. I honestly believe, Lee, that if you're neglecting one part of the city, you're actually neglecting the entire city. We have to be one city. We have to grow together as one city. And that's part of, you know, making the city attractive for that future growth. One of my goals is economic development and hopefully attracting businesses that are going to bring good paying jobs to this area. To do that, we have to have a complete city that is attractive in all areas.
Mm-hmm. When we have a stadium like this here in the Dunbar High School, located in the heart of the Dunbar community, named after an attorney who's African American, like Joe North, his name all over the place. What does that do in terms, from your perspective as a mayor, in terms of the overall positive nature of our city?
Well, I think it sends a strong message to people growing up, not just in the Dunbar community, but the city as a whole, that there is opportunity, and if you work hard, you can accomplish it.
Mm-hmm. What is your overall thoughts about law enforcement in the city of Fort Myers? Are you happy with the way things are going in terms of crime and the job that Chief Diggs is doing?
You know, Lee, there are people who will tell you that the police department is just horrible. And there's people who will tell you that the police department is the greatest agency in the state. I believe we're somewhere in between the middle and it being good. The important thing is, under Chief Diggs' leadership, that needle is moving. It's slowly moving toward being a great agency. And that's what we need to continuously strive for excellence. And I think as long as we're working toward being a great agency, we'll make those improvements and we'll continue to be a good agency.
When you're looking at a police department, you have a unique perspective in looking at a police department. You were a high-ranking law enforcement officer. I think you got all the way up to captain?
Major. I was a number 2 when I left.
Okay, that's higher than captain?
Yes.
Okay, so that
depends what week it is. You know, they change sometimes.
All right, well, congratulations on that. You never take that hat off, that knowledge that you have, and you can see things that we as laymen don't even see.
Right. It's very easy to be on the outside looking in and passing judgment without understanding really how law enforcement operates and the pressure and the demands that are on our law enforcement officers. I'll tell you one thing that I've always been big on, and I tell the officers, I have no problem saying to them, the best way I can support the police department is to hold it accountable. Hold it accountable for performance and behavior.
Mm-hmm. When we see high-ranking African Americans and minorities in the city of Fort Myers, I think in this part of the state, our city has more diversity in leadership positions than any other parts of the city, this region, and government. I know that because of the station that I sit in at this television show and moving around, and over the long period of time, we have three African American city council people. We have the head of the Community Redevelopment Agency, Michelle Hilton Terry, who's African American. The chief of police is African American. The head of the fire department is African American, just to name a few. I started this show 30 years ago. Glad to have you here on our 30th year anniversary. I would never have dreamt something like that. When you see that type of progress as a person who's been around for a long time, what comes to your mind? What kind of signal does that send around?
Well, first of all, thank you for recognizing that, because there's a lot of people that don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
We have done a really great job. You mentioned the city council. Not only is it half African American, it's half female as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's great diversity in the city at all levels, and we need not to rest on that. We need to keep building on that. To me, it sends a message to the community. Once again, there's opportunity there. Apply yourself, work hard. Don't let people stop you from succeeding. You keep plugging along and good things can happen. I had the pleasure of going to the police academy with Larry Hart and watching Larry.
Chief of police, first African American.
First African American chief of police. I had the pleasure of working alongside him.
That's amazing.
Seeing him rise up, and he came out of public housing. And so you talk about, once again, people who beat the odds and work hard and work their way out of a bad situation and into a good situation. And of course, Chief Hart retired, went on to be the tax collector for Lee County. And now, as he's ending his time there, I believe the governor has tapped him. I think he's going to be working on the Human Rights Commission for the governor.
Okay, well, that's a success story in its own right.
Absolutely.
You can't escape it. I can't escape it. Affordable housing in the city of Fort Myers. Is it something that you need to be trying to escape, or is it a problem that needs to be addressed and solved?
No, it's a hard problem to address and solve. I don't know if you're aware, but I'm forming 3 different task forces that are in the last 6 months. One of them's on unity, one of them's on homelessness, and the third one's on housing. When I talk about economic development, that's part of the solution for housing. Mm-hmm. Right? 50% of the people in Fort Myers actually own their homes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And home ownership is not necessarily for everybody. So what we have to do is create a pathway toward decent, affordable housing, whether it's owning or renting. But we can't have people living in rundown apartment buildings. That just doesn't work. When you look at the cost of the monthly income, the percentage of monthly housing expense, the percentage in Fort Myers is high. It's 27% compared to 24% in Cape Coral, 17% in Lehigh. We need to change that. You also look at the percentage of our population. We have the greatest percentage of population that earns over $200,000 a year. We also have the greatest percentage of population that earns less than $35,000 a year. That's a big disparity. Again, that's where economic development comes in. If we can attract businesses, and there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to do it, because Fort Myers is one of the fastest growing areas in the country. Mm-hmm. We have a lot to offer. We're a diverse community, and diversity means strength, and that's good. And like I said, if we continue to focus on improving the entire city and making the entire city attractive, hopefully we can attract those businesses that will bring better paying jobs.
Mm-hmm. So essentially you're saying the rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes.
And it's a two-pronged approach: attracting businesses, creating economic development, creating opportunity that other people will be able to enjoy in that process.
Absolutely.
Now, the Martin Luther King corridor in general it is the gateway to the city of Fort Myers. There has been some beautification efforts that have been placed there, but it's a lack of businesses all along that corridor. Do you see one day where that corridor will be just as booming as, say, Daniels or Colonial coming into the city with opportunities there, beautiful landscaping and so on?
That's a goal of mine, to return Martin Luther King Boulevard to a thriving commercial corridor. And I don't mean just bringing in national chains. They're a piece of it. But I think what's really going to make the difference is if we can help foster the growth of minority-owned, locally owned businesses along that corridor. So they're really supporting the community, not just in there making money, but supporting the community as well.
And that creates that you still keep the culture in the community as well.
Absolutely.
McCollum Hall represents that culture, that starting point. One of the points that is, I had an interview earlier this morning about McCollum Hall on a separate show, and the fact that it's starting to move forward, historical landmark that has some of the great musical artists in there back during the days of segregation in the Chitlin circuit. And what's your thoughts on the progress that's being made with McCollum Hall? You saw that process as a sitting city councilman.
I think it should have been done 5 years ago at least. All right, that intersection with McCollum Hall, the completion of McCollum Hall, has the potential to explode and be the catalyst for that growth along Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard that we talked about.
When you hear people say that developers are running the city, everything the city decisions are made about making these developers happy. I mean, not in any news, you've heard it before. Is that true or false?
I think there's a bit of truth to it. I mean, let's face it, development is important. I came here in 1979, and I have seen a lot of growth, a lot of good growth. I've seen salaries increase. I've seen unemployment go down. So development plays a part of it. It just has to be well-managed, good growth. We can't just let the developers have whatever they want. There's got to be control to make sure that it benefits the entire city. That's one thing. Both times I've run, I didn't get the endorsement of the building industry or the Realtors Association. Didn't stop me one bit.
Are you planning to keep the mayor's diversity committee or council in place?
I have met with Dr. Indenui, and so
Peter Denui.
Yeah, Denui. Two things we talked about. One, we're hiring a diversity person for the city, and I'm also doing this task force on unity. So I want to see what the recommendations of the task force and then what the diversity, the person who gets hired in that diversity position has to say before we continue on.
So
I'm not opposed to carrying it out.
So essentially the city of Fort Myers is going to have what we commonly know as somebody like a diversity and inclusion type person department.
Yes.
That's progress.
That position's been approved. Now we just have to find the right person.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Final question. We'll begin you back here over your. Right now, you got 2 years in your term, and
yes.
then is it fair to say that you'll run again?
At this point, that's my intention.
Okay, breaking news.
You never know what life's going to deal you. All right, but my plan is just to hopefully get reelected and do a full term. There are some things I want to accomplish that are going to take more than 2 years, and I'm hoping in the 2 years I can lay that foundation so people will see I'm serious about representing the entire city.
When we get a new president in office, and I'm assuming there's going to be some new things coming down as it relates to COVID-19 throughout the country, a guy like you sit in a privileged position, you get to see and hear things early on. What's it going to look like, say, in terms of COVID in cities moving forward? You hear any major things that may change in terms of how we operate in under the new administration?
A lot depends on how the vaccines work. If they do their job and people take advantage of them, hopefully we're going to see the tide ebbing a little bit, or not a little bit, but a whole lot. And so that COVID's not going to have the impact, just like a lot, we went through this with the bird flu and others. So hopefully we're going to get over that hump and start getting to the point where we're going to return to a sense of it'll be a new normalcy, but a sense of normalcy nonetheless.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mayor, it's been a pleasure to have you here at our 30-year anniversary of our television show at the North Law Firm Stadium. Looking forward to many conversations with you going forward. We're going to bring Joe North out right after this commercial break.
And can I give
Go
a
ahead.
shout out to Mr. North? You know, our relationship goes back to the early 90s, and I think this is great, the support he has shown this school.
Right. You'll be able to say that on air. He's going to be here with you.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.
Hello, Southwest Florida. Thanks for watching Lee Pitts Live. Of course, I'm Lee Pitts. I hope you enjoy that particular show, but you can always catch us here on YouTube. Just click on the subscribe button down there. That way you can get your Lee Pitts Live on demand when you want it and how you want it. We also encourage you to watch our show on Fox 4 and connect with us on all our social media platforms. Just type in Lee Pitts Live.